All right. Well, next piece, besides the Federal Reserve, and this ties in, okay, so if interest rates are coming down, there's always this conversation that's ongoing about interest rates and cap rates and, how related and correlated they are. And I don't think anyone would say that there's a one-to-one correlation in relation of like if interest rates go down, then cap rates have to go down.
Yeah.
But more of kind of a direction of travel of like, all right, if interest rates are really rising up, is the cost to borrow.
Yeah.
So it's the biggest, cost in source of finance when you're buying one of these deals. Higher it is to borrow, the less money you can pay. So it's going to at some point impact pricing, unless there's just so much momentum in thinking that prices will continue to rise for other reasons in the future. Like we're going to see some rent growth. We're going to see some sort of net operating income growth.
Yeah.
And it's been surprising when interest rates have been as high as they have been, especially kind of the longer term treasuries, that cap rates haven't expanded any further than they have.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly expanded. They went from, being in the mid kind of 4% range to, now they're like in like 5.5, maybe up to 6. But people thought that they would be kind of 6 to 6.5 based on just that like typical spread between like a 10-year treasury yield and cap rates.
Yeah.
CBRE, our friends over at CBRE, put out a survey of cap rates. And cap rates are controversial because there's a lot of different ways to, like slice it up, and whether you want to use, T12 financials, T3 financials,
right.
T1 income over T12 expenses.
Yeah, creative.
A lot of creativity and a lot of like different like opinions. And it's like, do you think it would just be more objective? But that's not always the case. So they do a survey, and we've talked about surveys a lot on the Gray Report recently, a lot related to like the BLS surveys related to employment or like the labor statistics. This is another survey, but it's a private survey, and they are it's using 3,600 cap rate estimates across more than 50 geographic markets, done by over 200 CBRE real estate professionals. It's completed during the first half of 2025. What's interesting about all that is it's like, all right, these guys should know. People should know. They they're pretty close to it. At the same time, and we talk about this a lot of, they probably have a bias. They probably want to sell real estate because they work for a commercial real estate brokerage shop.
Yeah.
You'd think that they'd want the liquidity to be in the market. They want to do deals.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to cast too much shade, but at the same time, they have to maintain their credibility. So they can't just put BS out there. Like it has to be somewhat real. The conclusion of the survey is that, cap rates are flat and somewhat declining. Now, this is looking at all property types, not just multifamily. This is office and industrial and retail, all that stuff. So even including office, cap rates, essentially, they bottomed out at about 5.5%, kind of during kind of peak ZIRP 2021 era, and inched up to basically 7%, and have come down slightly over the last several years, which again, in an environment where interest rates went up considerably more than that, it's a relatively tight range. You'd think that would indicate that there's some pent-up demand, or at least investors thinking things are going to get better.
Yeah.
One interesting piece, and this is more towards the argument that cap rates have really stabilized, is that in 2024, the second half of 2024, there was a large percentage of individuals who were expecting cap rates to decrease like over the next half. So this, I think that green color there, I'm colorblind.
Oh, it is bright green.
It is. Well, so what's the middle one? What's the middle one?
Aqua.
Aqua. Okay, sorry. So the aqua color is showing percent expecting to decrease, which is pretty the plurality, more than 50%.
Yeah.
And then, but for 2025, it's a much higher percentage of people expecting no change. Very small percentage of people are expecting cap rates to increase. Still, a good maybe 20% of individuals think there might be a continual decrease. But there's somewhat consensus here of, hey, cap rates are going to kind of stick where they are. Now, part of this, I wonder, is if you think back to the second half of 2024, there were a lot of expectations that interest rates were going to be dropped at that point.
Yeah.
I think that this year, there was like expectations for up to 5 interest rate, drops
Yeah.
throughout the year. We've had zero.
Yeah.
And now maybe we're going to get one in September.
Yeah.
So part of me wonders if this view is it's almost, let me put it this way. If the survey was taken today, I'm curious in the first half of 2025, if you wouldn't get more individuals saying they would expect a decrease given the Jackson Hole speech.
Right.
And the fact that there's an 85% chance, at least today, that there will be a decrease of the Fed funds rate in September. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting just seeing the difference. And it's almost like the uncertainty that tariffs and just general economic uncertainty kind of put the kibosh on any kind of movement, at least for the first half of the year. So again, we look at kind of the spread of stabilized cap rate estimates versus, this is comparing the two. And again, so it looks like really it's pointing to a lot more stabilization. Really the only outlier has been in office. That some of the respondents really think there's going to be an expansion in the office cap rates, which I don't think the end of the story has been written on the office market. A lot of people are still trying to figure out what to do with all that B-class office.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I was looking at these cap rate figures, like the individual markets, it's at some point you start to get interested in buying office. I don't really like office. There's nothing really, I don't know a whole lot about office, but when some of these markets, there's like a 10, 11, 12% cap rate. And if you could buy the office building with the expectation that more people move out and it still makes money and you can only have like one or two tenants that are going to stick. All right. Well, if you can secure some really nice, locations and real estate, maybe it's not a bad play. And, we were talking yesterday of, there's a little bit of a push to return to the office, and not everybody wants to work remote. And like this idea that like office is dead, like that's not going to be the case.
No.
Right?
No. I had a theory a long time ago. I think I even said it out loud on something that was recorded that, so, my daughter's 19 and, she glamorizes the office.
Yeah.
Like, this is a destination. It's so cool here. Look where my mom works, as a vibe.
We've got a cool office.
Well, we have a really cool office. I mean, I do think that we're extremely, we're on the extreme sense of that. I've worked in another office before that was
not as cool.
Nothing like it. Felt a little more funeral home-ish, but also I did great work there, so I didn't care. But I think for her, is that going to be the new perk once the norms are, sort of remote? And actually in the car on the way here this morning, I thought, in our software, we do have the ability to add custom fields. Mm-hmm. One of our custom fields should indicate, hybrid, remote.
Oh, you mean,
we
like
should
a resident
start collecting
app.
our own data
100%.
During the application process, if for no other reason than to understand the amenity spaces better, the amenity needs. We converted 2 storage rooms, at one of our communities into these hybrid workspaces. Well, the power went out in one of them, and that's how fast you understand if someone cares.
Yeah, seriously.
They do.
They cared.
Turns
they couldn't
out,
use the. Oh man.
Turns out someone cared. So, on the right track, but would really like to have a data-driven decision on that. But then, as it relates to just our own body of work in humans, there's more data that we could be collecting to understand office better. So definitely I'm like, I need to add that as a custom field and start to understand how many people are hybrid, remote, or full-time in office. If they'll share it with us, which they do. They will.
I mean, and it's a a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's important, viewing our communities and the amenities that we are going to provide residents from a perspective of how it used to be is everyone went to work during the day. Kids would go to school.
Yes,
everyone else would go to work.
Yeah.
I mean, a good way to do some initial due diligence on a property was driving around the parking lot during the day and seeing who was at work and who wasn't. Yeah. And if the parking lot was full, you're like, these people don't have jobs. But now you drive through a parking lot and you're like,
they work from home.
These are people who are hard at work.
Yeah.
And you've got your, Volkswagen or BMW must be doing, pretty good job, working remotely.
Yeah. And that's the other place we shouldn't make suppositions about product, because there are plenty of people in Evansville, Indiana at, River Club that work from home.
Yeah.
So
it's not just Class A.
It isn't just
100%.
Class A.
Yeah.
It isn't just Class A.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
Yeah.
But then we have to think about what kind of amenities then we need to offer those
Yeah.
residents, because it's all of a sudden you've got people who want to, take a stroll around the community during the day, or are just going to be around during
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, that's just a different dynamic than everyone going off to work. And it's counterintuitive, and we're going to talk about this later also, because there's trends of, limited staff resources. And so, there's a reaction to, let's have people at the site less, maybe we're going to have the clubhouse closed down during the day, or like limited, only a couple of days a week, or limited office hours.
Yeah.
But in thinking that everyone's going to want to interact digitally, which a lot of people, maybe most do, but all of a sudden, at the same time, you have more people on site that probably want to walk into the office and see how things
Yes.
are going, and
Yeah.
get the free coffee out of the coffee machine, or just
We
chat.
might be the only human they see all week.
real in person.
And there's like an incredible starvation for just that moment, the face-to-face, not always like where it's like required, at least as it relates to like the sales function or the renewal function, but like where it's required for just like sanity and mental health, which that's a whole, is a whole nother thing. And I've been on like a deep research, deep research. I think I'm an anthropologist now. I don't know.
Well, we've got a lot of people to study.
Yeah.
In our communities.
We do. We have an incredible amount of people to study. But yeah, the amenity, that the match with what they, need, what they will use, what will enhance their world, just has to be carefully and thoughtfully done. And we're an acquisition, so we're always trying to retrofit something because certainly no one thought about that or didn't think about it in the way that they ever could have imagined, when the architect started that. Depending on what year it is and, what we've bought. And,
Yeah. Because it's years from, design plans to implementation. I mean, you were talking yesterday about how, there's a property on the south side that you helped name some of the units.
I did.
And it's just now being fully stabilized.
Yeah.
But you named those units at your previous employer, years ago.
Yeah.
And pre-pandemic, or just before, during?
Ish. Yeah, it was after, but not long after.
But we still didn't know, okay, we need to design this for, work from home.
Right, yeah.
What would you do if you were back or doing one again, today? What are some of those activities? What are some of those features, amenities that we just need to be thinking about? Not that you could afford to do all of them.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that might move the needle these days?
I think that we've always had, some floor plans that had some semblance of like a desk space, counter space with the right, power. Like that's the other thing. Like I've been in communities before where there's like actually like possibly an extension in their kitchen, maybe where there's this just beautiful granite slab and then there's no power.
Yeah. How do you do work here?
No, yeah, right. You're like, that was a great idea. What do I do? What are we supposed to do with this? I also it's really more architecture. It's like being thoughtful about what's behind someone or, maybe no one wants to hear this, but maybe it's about at the construction point and nobody would ever actually do this, but thinking truly about what it's like to border a wall with another, human. And what that's like when you've got a couple of them home or more of them home during the day, like parking, the metrics of, space per unit. I mean, I definitely remember sort of like day one COVID, the initial pain was that everyone was on the same schedule. They were all home and they'd never all been home before. And their complaints about noise, parking, bird feeders, just anything that was like a nuisance, and
people didn't have anything else to do with that,
truly had nothing else to do. And that was really kind of a nightmare. And so sometimes, and I'll joke about it and I'll be like, what's the parking space per unit? Like, what have we done? Because, it's, and people are very vocal about their parking, very vocal.
Well, yeah, it's not a personal thing, but it really seems like it. People can feel it. Everyone. I try not to feel entitled about these things, but sometimes I'm like, I often park there. Yeah. And I at least want to be in like this area of proximity. And honestly, it was more, it's not even where we park now. It's like when we used to park back in the further lot.
Yes.
Like if those back spots.
Like where we backed in.
Yeah. If I couldn't get one of the backed in spots, even if it was like the furthest away.
Yeah.
I couldn't get one of those spots. I was like, oh man. I know it's not mine, but it's like I didn't get there early.
They're all, our residents are exact. I mean, it's no different than like, this is my church pew. This is my parking spot. These are, these are mine, but they're not mine, but everyone knows they're mine. So some protective instincts of what you think is yours.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
comes into play. But those are the things I would definitely consider. Or you would stop having random storage closets in all these different places, and you would actually understand that it could be an amenity space. I mean, it's probably a 6x10 it's probably not even 6x10 at, Echo in Bloomington, but
Yeah.
it was usable as an amenity, makes sense, didn't cost that much to furnish it.
And they were just random storage.
They were random storage. They weren't
rooms.
needed. We had a shop,
Yeah.
and honestly, sometimes like if you give a maintenance team and an office team, frankly, storage closets, they will find some crap to put in there and forget about it.
They'll get filled up.
And sure.
I mean, we're
Funny where we're thrifty and where we're not.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like might be able to get some revenue out of those storage closets. It's like, well, we've got to put our promotional materials from 10 years ago when none of us were even here.
Yeah, and some just really awful like Easter decorations, and I'm just like, come on, y'all.
We're never going to reuse
Yeah,
these
there's other
ever
places to
again.
make a big impact. Let's not this isn't the place. But yeah, just very, very thoughtful. Very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I like that, we were talking about yesterday, and you really tried to like underscore is like one of the things we're doing at Flats at Stones Crossing is adding some amenity spaces and to try to kind of replicate that kind of like backyard feel, kind of the patio, and having more than one of them. Because like at the property right now, there's like a grilling area by the pool, but it's like if one family or one group is using that area, there's 292 units. It's like it's done. Like no one else can go grilling today, or at least during that afternoon.
Yeah.
But by being able to offer some of those benefits of what you might be missing of a single family home experience, which is on a summer weekend, you want to go and grill and hang out outside at a patio. And in an apartment, you may have a little patio or a balcony, but it's not the same as there you can go sit down and grill.
I do think that's just psychologically, like we need to head there, and we also need to make sure that it's a reservable space. The fact that the grills are in these big common areas, it's really not comfortable to be like, okay, let me take my plate of raw meat, let me drive it in the car, maybe in some Tupperware. I don't even actually know.
How do they get it there?
I've never done that. And we should probably do that, just for perspective. Like one of us should simulate what that situation looks like. And so that's why the idea for, Stones, and all of our software allows it. People want to have predictability. They want to know that they're going to be in a comfortable environment. They want to know that they don't have to share the space, not because they're territorial and they can't be nice, but because if they've invited someone over, they want to have whatever conversation they want to have. They
you don't
want
have
to
to fight over the space with someone else, with their neighbor.
So some privacy and able to reserve it. And, we haven't like nailed it down specifically, but there's a lot of great ideas out there about not a theme in a hokey way, but does one have the cool pizza oven? Does one have, something that's more loungy? And then, like where they have some distinction in what the intended activity is. And then the resident can just say, oh, I'm going to, on Saturday afternoon, even if they just want to read a book out there and know it's theirs. It's part of the package.
I'm just thinking through the planning of, there's one grill space or even two grill space, but I don't know grill spaces, but I don't know if we can actually use it or if it's going to be available. And I have to go to the grocery store, get all my stuff, invite my friends, and then you walk down and they're all used. Yeah,
there's no confidence in that.
No, it leads you to not using the amenity in the space. And sometimes I think we walk around our communities or we talk to our site teams and we ask, how often is this getting used? And it's like, occasionally, every once in a while. But I bet it would be used a lot more if people could have confidence that it would be theirs to use.
Yeah,
so I think
a lot of anxiety out there. So like whatever we can do to reduce that. And obviously in a perfect world, we'd like to bring people together. Like we would love, if it's a Love is Blind reunion viewing party, we should be doing that.
Yeah.
We should be doing that. I think, that not that this is for today, but just thinking through like social events and, sort of the way that I don't want to say they're an afterthought. There's a budget for them. We want to do them. We believe they're for retention. I believe they're for mental health. And in addition to retention and like just really recognizing like the absolute importance of it, but it doesn't always have to be some giant pool party. Like it can be pretty basic, pretty isolated to a small group of people that maybe want to do a certain thing.
And don't you feel like we have, it's an opportunity to improve people's mental health because
Yes.
people long for community. We've lost that in many ways in society.
So hungry for it.
And when it's right there in front of you, it's kind of you may not have any other outlet to find it. And it doesn't require a lot of money to do. It's literally just saying, hey, we're getting together to do the Love is Blind, reading or watch or whatever,
right.
or whatever
This is where my daughter was last night. That's why I know that. Yeah.
But, hey, whether it's a potluck or watching a game or something, excuse to get people together.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's just the decision of, hey, let's make sure that we're doing these events and prioritizing it, because it's easy not to do and for time to get away, from you. And all of a sudden it's been like, we haven't had a resident event in, so long.
Right.
But man, when I read through reviews, like especially like, after we bought Solana, I remember reading reviews being like, where are the resident events? That was the one thing that I was always looking forward to. And they're always so appreciated. And then it's also an opportunity for the site teams to interact with the residents, not in an environment where, business. Yeah. You don't understand your bill, or, I've got a problem with a maintenance, service request or something like that.
Yeah. Pro tip out there: if you engage with your residents at those events, it's harder for them to belittle you in any other environment. Like if the last engagement with that person or the only engagement with that person is complaint, concern, or whatever, it's going to be easier for them to treat you a certain way. So pro tip, maybe just as many friendly social opportunities as you can have to engage, it actually can just increase employee satisfaction in a big way, because this person is less likely to come in and just lose their mind on you. Not a perfect system, but and again, helpful.
It smooths over interactions, but it also, I think, goes to increase retention rates, because all of a sudden it gives a sense of community and neighbors, and some people may not have any other reason to stay or to move, but if you have neighbors that you kind of enjoy, it might be that reason to stay.
No, definitely.
And to differentiate between, wherever they had been living and wherever might go.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, it doesn't require spending $100,000 on some new upgrade. It's like some of the simplest things. They just required, it's just a matter of, let's plan on doing this and make sure it happens.
Yeah.
But again, it's some of the simplest things that are easy to forget also.
Yeah. So, and it's up to the operator, I think, to be not just communicating it to asset managers and owners as like, well, we have to have parties. Like we know, or at least the reason that I want to do it is not let's have parties. It's satisfaction in the job. It's employee retention.
Yeah.
It's it's the way they're going to treat us. It's obviously social content. Like there's just so much more to it than just like, I need money for parties. But I don't know if operators, really are articulate and researched about the why behind it, and honestly the even more crucial why today than even 5 years ago. Definitely more than 10 years ago. It's critical. People are on the edge.
Need to break it up, get people together.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.